is African Spring. Let's all welcome Ishmael up for his speech. Thank you, Ishmael.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Ishmael Amandi, and today I want to talk to you about the African Spring. And you might be wondering, what is the African Spring? But I'm about to fascinate you through what I'm going to talk about. When I was a young boy growing up in Kenya, there was a huge demonstration called 7-7. Saba Saba, they call it Saba Saba, means 7-7 in Kenya. And they were demonstrating against the president, Daniel Arap Moi, the president of Kenya, and had a single party state. He ran the country with a fierce hand, and he made sure that everybody adheres to his laws. And everybody went for a mass action because they want a change. They wanted a change in this country. It wasn't a normal Patrick Day event, like just walking prominently in the streets, but this was a mass action for a change. People wanted to see change, and that change was a multi-party, a democratic country that people might appreciate, and everybody feel inclusive in Kenya. Finally, he gave in because mass action and protesting and demonstration has changed a lot of countries. And even in America itself, Martin Luther King brought the inclusivity of the Black and African American people to be able to vote and to be able to have their own rights here in the United States. Mark your calendars. March 20th, this year, March 20th, there's gonna be something called an African Spring. South Africa is taking part of it because they are tired of their corrupt and dictatorial president Ramaphosa in South Africa. They're trying to oust him out March 20th. In Nigeria, they're trying to oust the president out because of election malpractice and election rigging. In Tunisia, it's the same thing that has happened in 2010. And in Kenya, right now, they're trying to oust the president for his illegitimacy in the country. Africa has been held in bondage for a long time. And most of these presidents are so very corrupt and so dictatorial, and they have kept the country captive, and the lack of development in Africa is seen till today. Since colonization, I'm sure you try to understand and you are wondering why most African countries are so poor. And you keep on asking yourselves, why the United Nations and other organizations have to go and help these African countries? Why, since the independence till today, Africa is getting more poorer and poorer each and every day? Because there's also Western countries that are trying to make sure that they use African resources. And for them to do this, they want to make sure they put the leaders that will adhere to what they are looking for on them. And these leaders are actually known as corrupt leaders. Looking at Africa, we have different things that is happening. The first thing that is happening in Africa is tribalism. We have, in Kenya alone, we have 42 tribes in Kenya. And only 2 tribes have been the top leaders in that nation, the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin, since 1963. But the problem is we have election malpractice. They want to make sure they hold on to power. But the problem is they hold on to power, but the people are struggling each and every day. There's lack of jobs. the high cost of living, starvation in the country. And it's so sad to see this happening in a lot of these countries today. In Kenya by itself, last year we had an election, a peaceful election, August of 2022. But the problem is the outcome was not the true outcome. President Ruto, who is now the president of Kenya, ran against Raila Odinga in Kenya. Raila is known as the father of the nation in Kenya. People love him because he has fought for that country. He wants the best for the country. He ran for 5 terms, but he failed even to get one shot at the presidency. The reason being is not that he's a failure, it's because of election malpractice, rigging that is being done each and every day by the corrupt leaders. And it is sad to see this happening in Africa each and every day because we as an African people, we are struggling because of the corrupt leaders that are placed either with Western countries or their own selfish will. Raila Odinga has been pushing for democracy. He has been pushing to make sure that the African people are elevated in Kenya specifically. He went ahead and brought a new constitution. And in 2007, when he was rigged out, there was a lot of violence in the country because people refused to accept the president that was then President Kibaki in power because he rigged the election against Raila. There was faction and there was fight and violence in the whole country. And this yielded to the new constitution of 2010, the constitution that brought fairness in Kenya. In 2022, taking you last year, the same thing happened, the rigging of the election by President Ruto, who is now the president of Kenya. People have refused to admit that he is an illegitimate president. Even though the Supreme Court passed him through, the people have the power because the people voted. And the issue is not only about the voting, it's about the truth. They have refused to open the electoral service. If you know you have won the race, you will openly show that, yes, I've won this election, and I will open the electronic service to show each and everybody that I've won the elections. And that's what is needed in all these African countries so that we can curb the electoral malpractice. So these are the things that Raila is fighting in Kenya today. Number one, high cost of living in Kenya. With high cost of living in a third world poor country where people can't even earn $1 a day, it is impossible for people to be able to feed, to help and feed their whole families. Starvation in the country, with the lack of food in the country, people are unable to provide food to their own families. And the lack of rain, the staple food that people eat, which is the cornmeal, has gone to a higher price. It's really tough for these people to be able to survive. Nepotism, the tribalism whereby the yet President Ruto, who is in the presidency right now, employing his own people, his own tribal people into positions, into higher positions, and taking over each and every office because he's the president. The cost of fuel has gone way up and people can't be able to afford this cost. The tuition fees in schools, which have hiked up, and kids and children are not able to go to schools because of this issue. imposing high taxes on poor third world country. The most important thing that Raila is fighting is the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. If you don't know, now you know. Africa, Kenya, all parts of Africa are corrupt. Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission in Kenya was so corrupted that it had that a lot of those people were bribed to be able to help other presidency like President Ruto to get into power. This is an important issue because the president who's now is trying to capture the Independent and Electoral Boundary Commission, put his own people in that position, so that come 2027, he can be able to rig the election one more time. The capture of parliament, it should be something illegal. If you have a Republican and a Democrat that is supposed to help the people so that the opposition can hold the government into account. But if you have a government that is busy buying the opposition and bringing the opposition, think about having Democrats into the Republican side because the Republicans are buying the Democrats. Do we have a fair country? No, we don't. We want a country where the opposition stays into the opposition and they disallow to be bought at all with the government. And that's what we are witnessing today in the government in Kenya of President Ruto. So mark my word, March 20th is going to be an African spring. It's coming. Africa needs to awaken up. Africa needs to go to the next level and help each other so that they can grow from poverty, starvation, hunger, and they can bring a change in the country. Just like as Western countries, like in Europe, in the United States, we want to see better health care. We want to see children going to school with no issues. Same thing as any other Western country. It's all about the mentality. Africa has to be awakened up mentally and know that they are not colonized like they were. They need to be decolonized in their mental capacity. And that's what's going to help Africa going forward.